Judge has just delayed implementation of the Trump executive order that was freezing all government funding. It had originally been set to go into full effect right now, 5 p.m. Eastern. Joining us right now to tell us about this delay is MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. So tell us what the judge has decided and what that means, importantly, for people who are trying to access Medicaid portals or services.
Well, Nicole, let me first share with you what the judge decided, and then we can talk about what it means, because it's a little unclear what it might mean, and hopefully in the coming hours and days, we'll get a little bit more clarity about it. Judge Lauren Ali Khan of the D.C. District Court was ruling on an application made by a bunch of coalitions of nonprofits. And what she decided today was she doesn't have enough information, essentially, to enter a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order. The government's lawyer said none of these plaintiffs can tell you that they will be irreparably harmed. They can't point to which government programs, for example, they're dependent on, and how the cutting off of aid would prevent them from paying out their staffs or paying their rent at the end of the month. She said, given all of the allegations that have been made, given that they represent tens of thousands of nonprofits and other businesses dependent on aid, she'll enter what's called an administrative stay. That means until next Monday at 5 p.m., the OMB memo has been frozen, with one key exception. And here we get into what does this all mean? The freeze is only as to what is considered an open award, meaning if there is an existing distribution of funds from a given government program, that can't be touched. On the other hand, if an award hasn't yet been made from a particular grant program, then the Trump White House can put that OMB memo into effect and ask various agencies to report back to it in the way that they have in that original memo. So I still think there's some lack of clarity on what this means. But if you're a grant recipient, for example, in a state, you're a partner with a state that gets federal family planning grants, for example, and you're looking to get that check tomorrow, you're still going to get that check, assuming that you're an existing subgrantee, for example. If you are a partner with a nutrition program federally, you're going to get that check. The question is, are there major categories of federal aid, including in the foreign and international realm, where there aren't open awards and where this could be a real impediment to funding? We're going to have to wait to hear from people who know the appropriations process best, people who are really experts in OMB's processes and impoundment and in appropriations, to understand, are there real limitations on the administrative stay that Judge Ali Khan just granted?
Let me ask a dumb question. You may not know the answer to this, but David Jolly just said this is what Trump was impeached for the first time.
That's exactly right.
No understanding or respect for congressionally appropriated money. Is the judge saying that there might be some congressionally appropriated monies that Trump can take away?
I think what the judge is saying is, yes, there could be appropriated money that hasn't yet gone out the door as part of a grant program or an award program. And if that's the case, it couldn't be touched by the administrative stay. But again, she was reading her ruling orally from the bench. One of the things that was the hallmark of this debate between the DOJ's lawyer and the lawyer for these nonprofits was sort of an ambiguity about the whole enterprise, right? The memo went out yesterday, seemed to touch every federal program under the sun, with the exceptions of Social Security and Medicare. And then by midday today, NBC News' Garrett Haake was reporting to us that OMB had walked that back. It had issued a memo trying to clarify which programs weren't affected by it, but in ways that conflicted with the strict letter of the original memo. So I think one thing that is a gloss on this whole process is an uncertainty. And that's partially why I think Judge Ali Khan said, you know what? I need to press pause. I have the right under the Administrative Procedures Act, that's a federal law that governs agency action, to take that administrative stay to preserve the status quo while I'm evaluating whether or not a more lasting pause on this is warranted. And what the plaintiffs are asking for is either a temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction. So let's consider this like baby steps, right? This is the baby stay, the baby pause. On Monday of next week, she'll hold a hearing at 11 a.m. to contemplate whether there should be a much longer pause. And then ultimately, maybe not, depending on what the administration does, a longer, lengthier trial as to whether or not the OMB memo was unlawful for all time.